Good day folks, Sean here from Air Photography. So yesterday on my channel I uploaded some footage shot on the Hero 11 Black while it was mounted on the DJI Avata. The footage was filmed in the new 8:7 aspect ratio. I had an ND8 filter installed on the GoPro. I had stabilization disabled. And then I stabilized it in the GoPro ReelSteady. And other than it being a really overcast day, the footage actually looks pretty good. ReelSteady does a great job at smoothing out the footage and can even help hide mistakes that you've made as a pilot. Now in today's video, what we're going to be doing is comparing the ReelSteady footage against GyroFlow. Now if you're brand new to the DJI Avata, you might not be aware, but you can use third-party software to help stabilize the footage. The DJI Avata uses RockSteady by default if you're just flying around, and for the most part RockSteady does a pretty decent job, but it's not perfect. You can still get a little bit of unwanted movement, and especially if you're flying aggressively, it doesn't always do the best at keeping things smooth. Now the best part about GyroFlow is that it's free software compared to the ReelSteady, which costs around $100. And as you'll see here in a second when I play these side-by-side clips, for the most part they both do a great job. It's really hard to tell the difference between the two. The only downfall to using GyroFlow, unlike using GoPro and ReelSteady, is you have to decide whether you want stabilization on or off before you start your flight. To use GyroFlow, you cannot use any of the built-in electronic image stabilization. So once you have captured the content, you're pretty well committed to running it through GyroFlow. Otherwise, the footage is going to be really shaky and pretty well unusable. So let's go ahead and we'll take a look at the footage now. So as you can see, both did a fantastic job. Both GyroFlow and ReelSteady do a much better job at stabilizing the footage, making it look a little bit smoother and more flowing. As mentioned, GyroFlow is free, so you don't have to spend any money to use it. On top of that, you don't have to mount any extra cameras to your drone. You can use the built-in camera that's already in the Avata, and for the most part, it's actually a really fantastic camera. However, using something like a GoPro does give you some extra advantages that you just don't have when using the Avata camera. First of all, you can record at a higher resolution. 5.3K. You have more frame rates that you can choose from. If you want to record at 24 frames per second, you're able to do so. You don't have to decide whether you want stabilization on or off before your flight. ReelSteady works with footage that is unstabilized from your GoPro, but it also works with footage that has Hypersmooth enabled. Usually you will get a bit tighter of a crop, but at least you have that option. You can also make use of GoPro's new 8:7 aspect ratio. That gives ReelSteady a little bit more information to work with when it's trying to stabilize it. On top of that, you also have the ability to film in 10-bit color, which can be important for some people. Now, just before I go here, a little bit of information about mounting a GoPro on your Avata. As you can see here, the way I have it mounted, I've just put one of those sticky mounts right on top of the battery. Ideally, that's not the best way to do it because you do chance losing your GoPro using that method. On top of that, you only have a mount on one battery. There are third-party companies selling mounts on Amazon. I do have one on order, but it's not a Prime product, so it's not slated to be delivered until sometime in November. However, overall, having a GoPro mounted on the top, I was pretty pleased with the way way it handled. Of course, the drone is a little more drifty and you're not going to get near as much flight time, but I've done 3 or 4 flights with my GoPro Hero 11 Black mounted on the top, and for most of the flights I was averaging about 9 minutes. Now of course that will change depending on your flying style. If you're flying a little more aggressively, that's going to be shortened. On top of that, you probably don't want to do any type of acrobatic movements, flips and rolls and different things like that. Having this extra weight at the top could make the drone unstable. One interesting thing I did note after flying with the GoPro mounted on the top, these motors here were barely warm. Unlike my DJI FPV, anytime I had a camera on the top, those motors would get very hot. So hot that you could almost burn yourself touching them. But with the Avata, I didn't notice that, and like I said, the motors were still fairly cool to the touch. So it is actually a pretty capable drone. Now, just as a disclaimer here before I go, I can't recommend that you do or don't put your GoPro on top of your Avata. Just keep in mind that if you do something like this, you could void your warranty if something happens. It's not designed to have a GoPro or any other camera mounted on top, so it will affect your flight performance. And at the end of the day, you could damage your Avata because of it. Well folks, that's basically it for this video. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it and found it had value. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. And we'll see you in the next one.